Hey Reddit, what was your thank God I looked at the contract moment? I went to a reasonably well-advertised jewelry store to pick up an engagement ring, knowing that I wanted it to be a surprise, and that she would want to pick out her own ring in due time. I made sure that the ring would be returnable for full price, and even for a full refund from that store when I bought it for about 900 bucks. After the proposal, my then fiancée found a ring she liked better at a different jeweler, so I went to return the ring. When I said I wanted to return the ring, the clerk said no problem, just sign this and we'll get you sorted out. I read the small paper, and it stated something very close to I now confirm this sale to be a final sale, and cannot be refunded or returned for any reason. I read it, pen in hand, looked at her, and said why would I sign that? She took the slip back, got her manager, and I was able to get the full amount returned via the same way I paid, on my debit card. For those interested, it was a People's Jewelers in Vancouver. Musician type person here, label wanted to sign me. The entire contract was in very, very broken English. Amongst the idiocy on the contract were such gems as signing over my name, copyrights to all of my past songs, and being held accountable financially for any physical albums that didn't get sold. Fuck that. I signed up for a gym membership on a whim, and got sketched out when they initially charged me $250 instead of only the $90 for the month. I went home and legit didn't sleep, because I was so mad I went through with it. I called and asked the next day to see if I could cancel, and almost everyone I spoke to said either no, it was impossible, or only if I moved to an area that didn't have the gym. I checked the contract and you could cancel within the first 2 weeks, and I was only 3 days into the contract. You bet your ass I canceled so fast. Was sent a freelance contract for a job offer in the media industry. I was a graduate at the time with 2 years experience. Was offered £6.50 sterling hourly pay, and with the expectation that I must be available to work 37.5 hours per week. I had to use my own car for business purposes, but couldn't claim expenses for fuel, mileage, and above all, the contract demanded full rights for the company to use any creative works I produced within 2 years before the start date of the position. I didn't accept the job. When I bought my car new 3 years ago, the finance department processed and had me sign paperwork at a certain price. Then they called me 3 days later and told me that their lender fell through and I would actually have to pay an additional $100 a month. I brought in the paperwork with the price I signed for and the keys, told them they would stick to the contract or they could have their car back with the additional mileage. Apparently, this is a fairly common practice at car dealerships. Beware. Toyota was going to give me a $750 college rebate and 1.9% APR for 60 months for my truck. Finance comes to talk saying I suddenly don't qualify for the rebate, and if I did take the rebate offer I'd have a 5% APR rate and said to purchase the truck without the rebate at 3.5 APR. Luckily I am not stupid and looked through the rebate as fine print prior to walking in. I told them to show me where in the fine print where it said I would have to pay that interest rate and why. The guy said sure he would show me, obviously couldn't find it. He walked away and came back and said I actually do qualify for the rebate and low percent APR. So yeah, Richard, if you reading this, fuck you. At my high school, they set up Wi-Fi for us to use. However, in the terms of service, it said that by signing into the network, the school had permission to search the phone and look at its contents. I did not sign in and have not to this day. My wife and I were at a car dealership buying our first car. The dealership was offering special no-interest financing for recent college grads and we were using that to finance the car. The finance guy presented us with 2 options, a 3-year payment plan and a 5-year payment plan. The whole time he made it sound like the zero interest applied to both, and so we went for the 5-year plan to get a lower payment. Finance guy tries to get us to sign without reading the paperwork, but we weren't having that. Come to find out, the longer payment plan didn't qualify for the no interest deal and we were getting charged 6.5, which is a hell of a lot more than 0. We got pissy and threatened to walk out after we realized what they were trying to pull and got them to come down on the price. I know they've pulled that on other recent grads who don't read the paperwork and just sign. We were in the process of selling our business. My wife's car was registered under business. We sat down with our lawyer to discuss what is included in the sale: equipment, supplies, etc. And we clearly told him the car is not included in the sale. Well, guess what? We received the typed up contract from our lawyer and he had added the car along with other things. Thank God we read it and had it removed before signing it and sending to buyer's lawyer. Went to buy a new phone for $200. The employee told me they were closing soon and asked if I could come back the next day to sign the paperwork. The $200 mysteriously changed to $300 while the document was sitting in a desk overnight. Called them out on it and got it from somewhere else. Had company I worked for bought by another. The handover included new contracts for all staff with the new owners. I went through every word, and glad I did, as one clause gave the new owners rights over any IP I had ever had. If I had a patent from before I even worked for the previous company, I was signing away all rights to it to the new owners without any compensation. This included if they ever moved into a new area of business. So, if I suddenly got successful in another field outside of work time and nothing to do with their business, they were allowed to just start a new field of endeavor and take everything from me. I am extra glad I did check, because they later proved to be deceitful and dishonest. Kept on changing our salary payments, super contributions, accidentally forgetting to pay us, all sorts of stupid stuff. Buying my house. Husband signed the paperwork and I went in later that day to sign. I started to read through the loan application. Mortgage lender said, "What are you doing? You don't have to read it. Your husband already signed it." I was like, "No, I want to make sure it is what I want." Loan was at 150, 0 at 25, yeah right. Didn't he sign it and got out of there. Mortgage guy said he was going to take me to court. I said go ahead, it would be cheaper than what he wanted me to sign. Took over all the mortgage stuff from then on. Mortgage guy was a friend of a high school friend of my husband. Had just talked to my husband. The man who tried to sell us on this mortgage got busted and arrested. Lost everything and had to have his parents bail him out. Also, the mortgage lender we did go through for our FA loan, he also got arrested for selling bad loans. Do your research. I went to sign up at Snap Fitness and it said they'd charge a $50 gym enhancement fee every year. They said it would go to equipment upgrades. I told them that's what my monthly fee should be going to. They refused to remove the fee, so I bailed and went to Anytime Fitness. They immediately proceeded to pull the same shit. Plus the key fob to get in was going to cost me $70. You can buy a pack of 100 of them for like $20 on Amazon. They, too, refused to budge, so I backed out. Eventually I moved to an apartment with an on-site gym, so that worked out for the better. My current gym does that maintenance fee twice a year, but each time we all get to vote on what we want and they purchase it with that fee. So at least the people are getting some say. Viewed this great flat and was ready to hand over a deposit when I decided that I should actually read the rules they sent me once over again. I had read the one they gave me when I viewed the place and it was a bit strict. And in general I thought it was silly to have written rules when you were paying that much. But again, nothing I couldn't handle, thank Odin. I checked. The rules listed in the email were completely different and included gems like if you wish to bring a guest to the house, you must put forth a request in writing at least 1 week prior and must be approved by all members of the flat. There will be no guests allowed after 10 p.m. Absolutely no guests staying over. Any guest that comes over will require a $20 fee to go towards water usage for toilets. I am like, you want me to pay over $1,000 a month for my own private room and not be able to invite you as Marines? I was enlisting for a program that has 5 years of active duty, age 19. Get the contract and it says 8 years. Nobody had ever mentioned anything about that. I ask and the recruiters point out that it has an overall 8-year contract, but only 5 active. And the other 3 years I can serve in the reserves or in the inactive ready reserve. They explained that year means you still are eligible for service on paper, but have no monthly or annual obligation except keeping your address updated. And that all it means is if World War E breaks out and they raid drafting guys anyway, you'll come back in at your old occupation and rank. So I signed. Note this was pre-9/11 when we had no major wars going on. 9/11 happens. I do 2 tours in Iraq while on active duty, and 6 months before my 8 years is up I get involuntarily recalled and sent to Afghanistan for 6 months. We were young. My friend signed for a pre-owned Audi and came over to my house. Said it was like 300-ish a month, and in his glove box I read the paperwork and tell him, you know this says 550 a month, right? He was clueless, but thankfully it was over a weekend, so Monday morning he went back and caused a scene to give the car back without penalty. My wife and I were 3 days away from signing paperwork to buy a condo and they sent us the latest and we noticed that they changed the interest rate by a tiny amount, like 0.2%. They said the change was because they ran our credit, so they altered the interest to reflect our current credit rating. That left a bad taste in our mouths, so we said no thanks and walked away. The next week my company got bought out and they moved us out of state. If we would have signed, we would have had to either immediately sell or quit my job. That's called a floating rate. You are pre-approved for a mortgage at a certain rate, but it is not locked in until you actually get the mortgage. Suicide girl ass model contract. My ex was offered to come on board, not just as a hopeful, but a model, read the contract and said fuck no. They only pay one model daily based on album of the day, a measly few hundred last I recall. They force nudity, non-nude isn't good enough. The last part says we reserve the right to use your photos with technology that has not been invented yet. Awful company, legit sell your soul, nope. Joined the Army National Guard right out of high school and was eligible for a $20,000 bonus lump sum for the job I picked, as it was stated in my contract. Recruiter told me that wasn't the case. I would receive the first half after completing all initial entry training and the other after 3 years of service. I double-checked and verified and brought the sumbitch to him. To his surprise, he didn't believe anyone an 18-year-old would read their contracts. Thanks for watching. Share your story in comment.